Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. If we could please start the meeting. Today is Thursday, October 10th, 2019, for the regularly scheduled TDC VCB meeting. If we could please stand to pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We can do a roll call, please, for the council.
Commissioner Cecil Pendergrass.
Here.
John McLean.
Here.
Fran Myers.
Here.
Anita Saracita. Pamela Cronin is excused. Tony Laffey.
Here.
Colleen DePasquale.
Here.
Robert Wells.
Here.
Bill Wachulis.
Here.
Brian Kramer. We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all
And
for being here.
I need to announce that Anita did reach out to me last night, and I forgot to tell my staff this morning. She's under the weather, and sorry she can't be here.
Feels better then. Thank you. So this time we do the presentation to the guest first participants earning the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute Certificate for Guest Services Professional.
Good morning. Thank you again for your continued support in our customer service training program. Through our partnership with the American Hotel Lodging Education Institute, your help and the community's help and your support, this program would not be able to be possible. And today I'm really excited because we get to recognize our CGSPs, our newest CGSPs, and like we explained, we did exclusive training at the airport. So today we actually get to recognize our exclusive CGSPs amongst our others that went and trained out at our airport. And we are up to 805 CGSPs in our area. So we are close to our 1,000, so we're really excited about that. So as you come up, I'm going to call your name to get recognized, and you're going to receive your pin and your certificate. So as I call your name, please come up to the podium. All right, from the Lee County Port Authority, we have Karen LaPena. We have Alex Ulster. We have Christine Paget. We have Martha Suarez. We have Reed Swartz. And from our Lee County Visitor Convention Bureau, we have Evelyn Santiago. From the Pink Shell Beach Resort and Marina, we have Milagros Riviera. And at this time, is there anyone else who's here to be recognized that I did not call? All right, well, thank you again for all your time, your support, and dedication, and this concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Congratulations to everyone. And I think we're going to have, I think Amber just told me we're going to have over 100 over the next few months come through the program. So great. Thank you. This time I'd like to have approval for the August 8, 2019 TDC minutes. We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments? Discussion? Any opposition? Item moves forward. At this time we'll have public to be heard. Any public comment at this time? No? Okay. We'll move to municipalities to be heard. Any municipalities here today like to be recognized? Judy?
We're on the agenda later, so
Right.
for my time.
Okay. Any other cities? Yes. Okay, Coral's coming forward.
Good morning, everyone. Michelle Dean with the City of Cape Coral. And I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about the GO bond in the news, so I just wanted to clarify a couple of things going on for those that may not be aware. We have recently had the 7 combined public meetings, input meetings for the 7 new neighborhood parks that are going to be opening up in the next couple of years. And we are currently in the first round of the public input meetings for the new community parks. And this includes the revisions to the Yacht Club Community Park, the Yellow Fever Creek Preserve, the Lake Kennedy, which will be the Lake Kennedy Racquet Center, and Festival Park. These public input meetings, the one that's going on tonight is specifically about the Yacht Club, at the Yacht Club, so you may have seen that in the news. If you have input, we certainly invite you to come out. There's also going to be a second round of public input meetings for these community parks that will be in November and December, and all these new parks are due to open the end of 2021. So very exciting time in Cape Coral. And then also just wanted to let you know about 2 other renovations. Our Cape Coral Art Studio, which is on Coronado Parkway, is recently underwent huge renovations, had a $100,000 grant from the cultural facilities with the state of Florida that was matched by the city. They have a huge renovation reveal and open studio tomorrow night from 5 to 7. And we invite you to go out and see that. And then, of course, sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath. All this excitement going on in Cape Coral. I can hardly contain myself. But we do have the return of our event season, and that kicks off with Cape Bike Night this Saturday night from 5 to 10 on 47th Terrace. Our Coconut Festival coming up next month, but a whole bunch of exciting stuff going on in Cape Coral, across the bridge. So we invite you all to participate in the public input, come out to the events, and certainly Cape Coral appreciates the TDC's support. Thank you.
Any other cities at this time like to be heard? Will be none. We'll close that, and we'll move on to the next item, which is the report of the Executive Director, Tamara Pikett. Tamara, you're up.
All right. Well, happy October. Since we did not have a meeting in September, I'm sharing with you both July and August bed tax collection. You'll see July was up 4.9% to 2.8 million. August was up 26.1% at 1.8 million, but I will remind you that last August we suffered through the red tide. So the good news is both of these numbers exceed the 2017 numbers. So they are in the, not only have we gained back the bed tax lost during last summer's challenges, but we have surpassed the previous year as well, so that's good news. For the year to date, finally, I think we've dug out of the hole, 1.2% increase overall at 4.1 million. In terms of the STAR report, occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR were all down in July, but you see in August, occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR were all up. In terms of August of 2019, it compares fairly similarly to August of 2017, not quite back on the occupancy side, but I think we've seen that occupancy challenge all year long. ADR is really close. So at the airport, it's been gangbusters, continues to be. July up 1.8%. Look at August, 5.1%. And for the year to date, airport continues to be up 8.4%. So really, really great activity through the airport, which is good news for our community. I'm going to now invite Jill and then Stephanie to come up and give you the sales report. Jill will kick it off on the domestic side, and Stephanie will present to you the international activities.
Good morning, Council. I'm Jill Vance, Director of Sales, and I'll be going over our sales activities. Here is a recap of the year-end results of this fiscal year's sales goals. We have attained our annual goal for the number of room nights from the RFPs that we have sent our hotel partners. Also, for the room nights booked by our hotel partners from those RFPs. We have also attained our annual target for the amount of domestic and international travel professionals that we have hosted here in the destination through familiarization and site tours, and for the number of client events that we have held both domestically and internationally. And finally, we attained 86% of our goal for wedding leads sent. In our upcoming sales and marketing plan, we have added attending a wedding expo in our top feeder market, along with participation in virtual expos. So we're hoping that will produce more destination wedding leads. Since we have our final production numbers for the fiscal year, I thought it would be important to drill down into these numbers and analyze the group meetings market segment production. So we'll start with corporate. This market was 50% of all of our group leads sent and 26% of our leads booked by our hotel partners, giving us a conversion rate of 9%. Booking windows for the corporate market have, if you can believe it, gotten even shorter, about 30 days for small meetings and as little as 3 months for large meetings. Although this is hard operationally on our hotels, it does help them fill the softer periods with last-minute group business, so we want to continue to grow this market. Now let's look at the association market. This market was 34% of all of our group leads sent and 55% of our leads booked by our hotel partners, giving us a conversion rate of 27%. So as you can see, the association market continues to be our strongest market, with over half of our booked group room nights, and about half of those were just from the Florida associations. So not only has Betsy done a great job in Washington, D.C. soliciting our national associations, but Erin, along with our hotel partners here in the destination, have established very strong relationships with our Florida associations in Tallahassee. With this conversion rate, it's even more important that we continue to grow this market with the new meetings hotels coming into the pipeline. Let's look at the SPURF market. This market was 16% of all of our group leads sent and 19% of our leads booked by our hotel partners, giving us a conversion rate of 19%. And new this fiscal year, we tracked the leads from all the market segments that fell during our shoulder months when our hotels need the most help. About half of our group leads that we sent were for the shoulder months, and were 66% of our leads booked by our hotel partners, giving us a conversion rate of 21%. So bottom line, we sent 29% more lead room nights than last year, resulting in 9% more group room nights booked by our hotel partners from those leads, with a conversion rate of 16%. Now that conversion rate is down a little bit, but still a very decent conversion rate. BEC Beyond the Road. Here are some of our group sales team's activities for last quarter. Betsy and Erin attended the Connect Marketplace and met with over 75 meeting planners from both the corporate and association markets. They've already sent 8 leads to our hotel partners as a direct result of this show. Also, Jerry held his annual Twins Meeting Planner client event with several of our hotel partners. During this trip, they also conducted corporate sales calls, which included a presentation to Prestige Global Meeting Source. Now, Prestige is a full-service, third-party meeting planning company headquartered in Minneapolis. And since we began our partnership 2 years ago with Prestige, Jerry has almost doubled the number of leads that we've received from them. And what's nice is they work very closely with the Mayo Clinic, which is a rather large account. And we've already had a Mayo Clinic lead go to contract. And here are the highlights for our consumer and travel agent team's activities. The photo in the middle is Linda attending the Southern Women's Show, where over 22,000 consumers were in attendance. And next are the upcoming sales activities for the domestic sales team. And I just want to point out a couple for October. Jerry will be attending the Connect Medical Show in our effort to grow the medical market, which is one of our vertical target markets for group in our new fiscal year. Over 130 meeting planners will be in attendance, and we chose this show because we've had great results from other Connect shows. Also, Shelley will be attending the Dream Destination Travel Show. This is a new show for us. It attracts thousands of Massachusetts residents, which is one of our top leisure feeder markets. And the show offers one-stop vacation planning and booking. For November, I just want to highlight that Betsy will be attending the Luxury Meetings Meeting Planner Show in New York City. This is another new show for us with qualified New York City Corporate Association and independent meeting planners who meet one-on-one in a time-sensitive format followed by a networking event. And finally, for December, just real quick, I want to point out that Betsy, for the third year in a row, will be attending American Express Interaction Show. Around 1,400 American Express third-party meeting planners will be in attendance. Last year, 16 leads were sent, and 5 have already gone to contract. Are there any questions before I turn over to Stephanie Zinka, who will be giving you our activities for international?
Any questions for Jill? Okay, thank you. Great job.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Council. For the record, my name is Stephanie Zinke, International Sales. I'll give you a brief recap. In July, July being the quieter months in the European trade industry due to the summer season, we partnered with Dare Tour, one of the tour operators, and their retail outlet in Erfurt, near Frankfurt, Germany, for an agency takeover USA Florida Day. We also hosted an Asian event in Copenhagen and did trade outreach throughout Scandinavia to boost our e-learning platform. Shown here, that video, which is not running really well, I apologize for that, is part of that interactive online training course that is currently active in the UK and most recently in Scandinavia. We have 729 certified users as of yesterday, a number that we've grown over the last 3 months by 12%. In destination, we hosted Patrick Argy. He is a broadcast journalist, biologist, and BBC show host with his crew to gather some content, video footage, and most importantly, interview with locals, which will then convert into several pieces that we will be using in partnership, not only with a publication called Wanderlust, but also with some of our trade partners to promote the nature and wildlife assets of the destination. That will start this coming Monday and then run through May 2020. Looking back at August, the team in Scandinavia conducted a webinar for 20-plus sales agents with tickets.se, which is a leading OTA across offices in Sweden and Denmark. In Canada, our partnership with Air Canada Vacations gave us the opportunity to become OpenJaw's headliner destination for the month. Just for you to know, OpenJaw is Canada's leading travel B2B travel news source. The video here in the middle shows Jeanette Ferrier. She's our Canada account manager during a TV interview with OpenJaw, which was one of the components of our partnership. September got off to a little bit of a rocky start with Hurricane Dorian, so we had to postpone some of our FAMs and destination trainings. One of the shows that we went to at the beginning of the month, La Cita, is a hosted buyer show in Kissimmee with 250-plus buyers flying in, well, scheduled to fly in from Latin America, and of course, some cancellation and all that. But despite all that, we still had a really good show. We managed to welcome Nadia from the Germany team to a destination training, and we also hosted our regional product manager FAM from Scandinavia in partnership with Iceland Air. The main event that I do want to point out for September is Brand USA Travel Week. It's a brand new show put on together by Brand USA in London this year. The inaugural event over 3 days facilitated close to about 5,000 appointments with 179 buyers from 21 different European countries. In overall, there was about 500 people in attendance. The aim is to grow that number, and the show is also scheduled for the next 6 years out. And the way they're trying to do this is on a rotation basis, meaning that it will be in the UK, and then it will rotate every other year to other key markets in Europe. It will be in Germany in 2021, France in 2023, and then the Netherlands in 2025, as I said, with the UK in between. There is a full report available if any of you have more interest in details about that show. I'm happy to share that. Looking ahead for October this month, we just wrapped out our first FAM of the new fiscal year with Booker Bets and British Airways from Ireland. I will be heading to Orlando for the RTO Summit, a receptive tour operator international inbound show, appointment show over 2 days. Our Germany team is currently, as we speak, touring 5 different cities throughout Germany for the FTI Roadshow. In November, Pamela Johnson will represent us at World Travel Market in London, where we're aiming for a stronger media focus this year, including trade publications. Also in November, together with 3 of our hotel partners, we're heading to Toronto and Calgary for our Canada sales mission, adding for the very first time Calgary. And the reason being is that this is due to a partnership we have evolved with WestJet, and their main operations are out of Calgary. We will be taking over the WestJet training campus for an entire day. Also, great timing because WestJet, as of this week, actually started their winter schedule and increased their air service into RSW from Toronto up to 11 times a week and from Ottawa up to twice a week. And then lastly, in December, we are hosting our annual Receptive Tour Operator and Partner event in Orlando to end the year. And in Canada, we will be part of the Side Canada Holiday Social in Toronto for the trade and media industry to wrap up the year. Are there any questions before I pass it on to Judy?
Any questions? Bill?
Yes.
Thomas Cook affects to us?
You called it, Tam. Of course. So for some of you, probably everybody in the room has heard Thomas Cook, which is actually the oldest European travel tour operator. They ceased to exist. I have to say, they ceased to exist, the UK portion. As of actually earlier this week, finally confirmed yesterday, Hayes Travel, they purchased 555 stores across the UK. So they're picking up the retail component of Thomas Cook for the UK. That still leaves the biggest question is about the air component, which fortunately doesn't really concern us too much because we're not a charter destination. Also, I have to say, just for everybody in the room, because of course that is uncertainty, how that will impact us. But I will also say that it won't impact us dramatically. Why? Because they're not a big producer for us. About 89% as of last year, their business goes into Orlando. So yes, there is, I think I looked it up yesterday, about maybe, if I had to average the last 600 room nights in total. So that's the UK portion only. Then the Nordics, which is Scandinavia, they're operated under actually their own, they are all part of the Thomas Cook parent company out of the UK, but they always operated pretty independently, so they're doing business as usual. And then the other big question in the room remains Thomas Cook Germany. So Germany actually, as of this week, they're having negotiations. What they had to do in order to break free their operation and their brand from the drowning and bankruptcy of the UK parent brand, they had to file for an insolvency processing application. And they only do that so that they have the opportunity to continue to live on once they find the funding. And the German government actually, as of Monday, made a statement that they're willing to provide a bridging loan to keep them afloat. So that's the answer I can give you as of right now. I think for the German part, there is good outlook because all the talks and investors are pretty positive. So I'm confident that that will remain alive. Like I said, the airline portion doesn't concern us too much. And the UK, I mean, with them picking up that retail component, I think that's also a good solution to the problem.
Thank you.
The abandoned travelers was not a good look.
No.
And, you know, it's going to leave a bad taste in some folks' mouths for sure.
Yeah, it was the largest repatriation act by the British government since World War II to bring everybody back. So it wasn't a good time, but you know, by Hayes Travel and others stepping up, I mean, they alone gave, I think it was 2,855 employees their jobs back. So everybody knows how important it is, and it's part of the basis of the European tour and travel industry. So everybody stepped up the best they could.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
That answer your question?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay,
Thank you,
give
Stephanie.
it over to Judy.
All right.
Good morning. Judy Duran, Director of Visitor Services. So nice to see you all today. Very briefly, I just wanted to share with you that we've had the pleasure of working with a little over 28,000 visitors through RSW, as well as at different locations throughout the county this year. And you'll also notice that our international traveler outreach has been increasing steadily, and I'm sure in Friends report later, you'll hear more about some not only great flight information, but how the international travelers are coming in via Eurowings and others. So numbers looking pretty darn good. And on this slide, just pay attention to the fact that Pink Shell was our most requested bit of information. That property is very popular, as well as the continuing focus on Jay and Ding Darling. And of course, our parks in the summer are extremely popular with visitors who hear about the area. On this particular slide, just make sure you focus on a couple of great things we've done this year. I'm very proud of our 132 tourism ambassadors as well as our team staff. They produced, it's not shown all 4 on here, but we've produced 4 Team Tourism Summer Lecture Workshop Series. That was popular with our tourism industry partners. We've been hugely supportive of Nancy. Our volunteers love working with Island Hopper Songwriter Fest. That's great fun. And I'm sure you'll hear from Fran, too, about the groundbreaking for the Port Authority Air Traffic Control Tower later, too. That was really neat, and I was there with Tam, and it was fantastic. It's going to be great. And then here, just pay attention to a couple of fun things we've done here. We actually have the great pleasure of working all the time with sales and conference services to provide support for different groups, such as Florida for Better Transportation Conference, as well as the Municipal Electrical Association. It's just really fun for the volunteers to actually serve as on-the-ground ambassadors for the area. They actually go and serve at the different conferences and provide information. So they do a lot of community outreach, which is very popular to not only our local residents, but also our visitors and our meeting folks. And just a quick look ahead to you, just note that United Airlines has their flight coming in soon, which will be Washington Dulles. That will be very, very popular. That's one of the great routes that we like to see a lot of folks coming in on. And of course, we're looking forward to this weekend with Roy Hobbs. That's going to be next week. And then of course we have the Hobie Worlds Championship. Lots of interest at the information booths about that. And then I'm going to remind you all when December gets closer, in case you would like to attend our volunteer holiday potluck. Short and sweet, there you go. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Francesca Donlin, Director of Communications. Before I start my presentation, I just want to tell you something that happened yesterday that's kind of interesting. So yesterday, I have a cousin named Susie in Providence, Rhode Island. Yesterday, Susie was going into emergency gallbladder surgery, so I called her last night and I said, "Hey, Susie, good luck, go get him." And she said, in her typical New England way, she said, "It's nothing, don't worry about it." And then she paused and she said, "But Francesca, what about Fort Myers being named best place to retire in the country?" And I just thought that was such a perfect example of what PR does. And now let me be clear, we didn't have anything to do with that story. But the fact is that news travels so quickly. And she was like on a gurney going into surgery, and she wanted to tell me that. She was excited about that. So I just thought that illustrates a lot of what we do. And Bill Gates has a quote that that's on my door that says, "If I had one last dollar, I'd spend it on PR." And that's why, because you just can't get that kind of excitement. You can't buy it. It just has to happen. So we spend a lot of our time trying to create that kind of buzz. So one of the most exciting projects that we had this quarter was Rob Rose. Rob Rose is with Raw Travel, which is one of the most authentic travel shows that's on broadcast television. In fact, it's going to be in 170 markets throughout the country, all around the globe. And I just want to quickly tell you how we even met Rob Rose. Jackie Parker, back in the back, communications manager, met Rob Rose in New York City at a media event in May. 2 months later, we had Rob and his crew member of 2, in an RV at Red Coconut on Fort Myers Beach. And they went all over the area. They got some beautiful imagery. And they will be premiering their 7th season on Saturday about our destination. So please set your DVRs to Wink or CW, and I want to give you a premiere of that. I want to give you a teaser of the preview.
We're taking an RV road trip to the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel. Let the adventure begin.
Routine is the enemy of creativity, but to hone a craft takes practice. I think I'm getting pretty good at this RV road trip stuff, but it's hardly repetitive. Each destination and vehicle brings a unique set of adventures. On this outing, I decided to stretch my skills a bit. and rent a slightly larger motorhome. And I wanted to have an epic beach experience in an RV, something I'd never attempted before. I knew very little about the southwest coast of Florida and the picturesque area of Fort Myers and Sanibel. That needs to change. Let's stretch our minds, our skills, and our hearts. It's time for an RV road trip to the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel.
So if you missed the broadcast on Saturday, it will be rebroadcasting in November, and you can see that on rawtravel.com. The next exciting project we have is Weekend Explorer. Weekend Explorer, I met Jeffrey Lehman, who's sitting at the table there, at a North American Travel Journalist Conference, and we had him bring his crew down here. They are on 27 Cox affiliates and PBS stations, so they will be filming soon. I mean, they will be broadcasting soon, but I also have a preview of what they were up to.
There's a place on the natural side of Florida where beach days happen every day, and island time is the only time. Here you can wander your own deserted beach to find some local treasures.
What I just found.
Encounter wildlife on the side of the road. Or enjoy a fun kayak adventure on a beautiful endless sea. The friendly natives are always excited to greet you and eager to share their colorful history in beautiful surroundings. There are dynamic visitor centers and fascinating guided tours. Visit a unique neighborhood, Florida colorful. There's distinct dining. Enjoy a drink, then try seafood straight off the boat. Top it off with some candy as sweet as the server. Lots of fun for kids here too. And the whole family will enjoy learning about the Crow Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Each spectacular morning brings difficult decisions. Relax on the beach, explore in nature, or have a magical encounter that might just include a manatee kiss.
Manatee kiss.
Regardless the choice, each day is unforgettable on the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel.
So he will be producing 2 6.5-minute segments, as well as he's given us 30 minutes of high-quality B-roll that's available to everyone, including that manatee kiss, which we have never gotten before. Moving on, our media coverage continues just to get bigger and better. Reader's Digest, Forbes, and after yesterday's news, we are everywhere right now. So that's the good news. Recent FAMs, we hosted China and we hosted Germany, and 2 quick stories about that. China was in collaboration with Visit Florida, and it also allowed them to go see the Christian Bush concert with Gulf Coast Symphony, which was very special to them, and they really, really enjoyed it besides the wildlife. Sophia, that's holding her dollar bill that says, "Thanks for taking me to paradise," she had not only, so she's from Germany, obviously, but she had never been to the United States and, of course, never been to Florida. So she was standing at the coast on Captiva outside Mucky Duck, and the sun was setting, and she just started crying. And it just makes you remember and reflect and pause and remember that we have a destination that makes people cry. And, you know.
Happy tears. Happy tears.
Happy. True. I have to think about how I said that. Yeah, we thought maybe she was injured, but no, in fact, she was literally weeping with joy. So that was a lovely group. We also hosted Canada. They did not cry, nor did the Island Topper fam. But I have to just say that sometimes when you have a fam, you know, it always goes right, but sometimes it goes crazy right. So at that Island Topper fam, where we had some really heavy-hitting journalists, all the wildlife came out. The dolphins came out. The sea turtles came out. The stingrays. The stingrays came out. I mean, they couldn't believe it. All they could just say is, "Are you kidding me? Is this happening? Is this real?" So it's really fun to see people's reactions who have never been here. Media events. This was fun too. You can see up at the Jumbotron. That is the Jumbotron. That is a little video that we had with the mascots. We had the Red Sox mascot and then the twins, and they're playing on the beach. It's adorable. But what was most fun is that we had a whole group of journalists and salespeople, and we made them stop everything. So when this video came on the Jumbotron, and to see it with thousands of people, it was a really exciting moment, and they were very impressed. Moving forward, I want to give a shout out to Shelley Krant, who is sitting in the back. Shelley Krant has been a contractor for the VCB for 20 plus years. She does a lot of work for sales, and she wears a PR hat as well. And recently, Shelley Krant was at the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers, where they honored her with the Golden Glow Award, which basically meant that her efforts and her contacts and her journalists that she's built relationships over the years, they just have been so impressed by Shelley, as we have. And more ironically, the journalist who won the Golden Glow for being the best journalist, won because of a story he wrote about catching a Goliath grouper that changed his life. So Shelley helped orchestrate that as well. And then lastly, what I want to say about her is that it's those and the relationships we all build that help us move forward. And Shelley, by working with those outdoor writers for so many years, helped sort of ignite the flame that started Hobie. And so we are all going to benefit from that next month when the World Championships come here. So thank you, Shelley. And then lastly, yay! And then my very last slide, I'm going to read this to you. So the journalist, one of the journalists for the Island Hopper fam, it was sort of like journalism gold, meaning she was covering the country singers, the songwriters, and she knows all the songwriters. She's in Nashville. She knows everybody. She's been everywhere. So they were all like, hey, Tammy, hey, Tammy. Her Instagram name is Tammy Goo Goo, in case you want to look for that. But I'm just going to read to you what she wrote. One of the things I found most impressive about at Island Hopper Fest and our at Fort Myers Sanibel hosts was their concern over women being well and fairly represented at their event. I actually thought they did a splendid job, but in what I have learned is typical for that amazing area of the country, they wanted to know what they could do better. Y'all, I was only there from Thursday to Monday, but I walked away so uplifted, inspired, motivated, and eager to return. To hashtag Fort Myers Sanibel, it seemed like a 2-week respite. And it wasn't just the ocean, and the sunsets, and the salty air, and the boats, and the dolphins, and the umbrella drinks, and the music. It was the people. So that is my presentation.
Well, that is a nice segue to me sharing with you some preliminary numbers from Island Hopper. As you know, we take attendance at each performance and count those numbers. Last year, we estimate we had about 18,000 people participate in the performances. This year, up 17% to 21,000. In terms of confirmed room nights, and we're still gathering data, and if you're one of our partners in this conversation, please send your survey back to my team so that they can calculate most effectively the numbers. But last year we estimated 573 room nights, this year 714, so up 25% from last year. We had 88 songwriters this year. It was 83 last year, so an increase there. And most importantly, I think the thing that we're all the most excited about was the app downloads. You know, last year was the first year we did the app at Island Hopper, or for Island Hopper, and last year we had about 28,000 downloads. This year we had almost 4,200 downloads, so a 50% increase in downloads. And we're really excited about that as well. So really,
42,000.
no, 4,200, 2,700.
Oh, you said
20, oh, I'm sorry, 2,800. My apology. Wow, would that be fantastic?
That's what I'm, wow.
Someday, we're going, we're moving that direction. I'm sorry, 2,800 to 4,200. So big increase. We're really pleased with that. You know, staff has done a phenomenal job as always, and I know Bill and Tony both hosted events, so they may be able to speak to it as well. We're going to give you a full report, but we're super proud of it, and as always, I need to, you know, have a big thank you to the team that puts this on. This is a labor of love for the VCB staff. They really worked very, very hard and earned their TKA status for sure doing this, but Nancy McPhee is the lead. This year, Tommy Cassell from our visitor services team took the lead on Captiva, and Amanda Auer, of course, managing Fort Myers Beach. The three of them, with everybody else involved, but really the three of them, they make this thing go, and they're amazing about it. So hats off to them, as always. I'm super proud of them. And last but not least, I need to introduce you to our new communications manager, Ray Saracino, and Ray is behind me. It took me a minute to find him because he's exactly behind me. Ray comes to us with more than 20 years of journalism and communication experience. He most recently served as the public affairs specialist for the Department of Defense at the U.S. Southern Command in Miami. Prior to that, he spent 20 years in the newspaper industry as a graphic artist for several newspapers, including USA Today. He also served part-time as a public affairs specialist in the Air Force Reserve. So not only is he a veteran, but he is now a member of TKA, and he and his family have lived here in Southwest Florida since 2000. So welcome to Ray. And the last thing I have to say is, some of you have I think some of you got this in the mail, but some of your mail came to our office. This is an invitation from the Mound House to attend an event to celebrate its listing on the National Register status, National Historic Register status. The event is is Thursday, November 14th from 6 to 8. And when Anita sent me her note about not feeling well last night, her big concern was to make sure that I told you about this, because she really hopes that you'll come out and enjoy that celebration. I'm sure it's going to be a fun night, and they've done such a fantastic job with that facility. I know you'll enjoy it. So with that, sir, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Our next item is a special presentation with Pamela Johnson, Strategic Plan Update.
Good morning, everyone. So, Commissioner and Council, I feel like after the presentations this morning from these amazing women and the great news about Songwriter Fest, my presentation comes with a couple of disclaimers. Disclaimer number one is I've been trying to give this presentation for quite some time, but due to lots of things, particularly with timing and crises and so forth, that's delayed this presentation of where we are with our strategic plan. And number two, after all this great news, I need to temper expectations on this plan, because when I look back on this plan that was developed in 2016, I wonder to Tam and the management team at the VCB, what were we thinking? So let me just share with you that, there's been just a rapid change in consumer behavior and world events. And of course, the last couple of years, as I mentioned, we've had two crises. In 2017, we had Irma, of course, and last year we had the red tide and the algal blooms. So just trying to put everything into context. And just a reminder that the strategic plan is a shared community vision. It is not just the VCB's voice. It was developed with inclusion of many community voices, of tourism industry partners, municipal leaders, business leaders. All of them had a voice in shaping this plan. So there are 4 goals, we call them strategic imperatives, that were designed to power the actions of the VCB and stakeholders, and to develop opportunities to enhance the visitor spend, grow RevPAR, and grow year-round occupancy. So let's dive in, shall we? This is what we said are our critical success factors going forward. Increasing the annual visitor spend to $3.3 billion. The second one makes me laugh. Grow RevPAR by 15%, and then grow year-round occupancy by 5%. So let me explain too how we plan to get here. The first goal is to grow the tourism pipeline. And we really needed to deepen our research that further segments the Lee County visitor profiles using various life stages. We identified 3 primary audience personas and 5 core audiences. That gave us a compass for better targeting through our marketing efforts. Bottom line, it provides for more personalized content to audiences where they consume it the most. And approximately 50% of our digital marketing spend now is spent towards targeting these audiences. We wanted to continue to provide collaborative support to stakeholder efforts and to increase our domestic and international air service. So in 2017, right before Irma, we had the Air Berlin insolvency and enter Eurowings. And we continue to work with or develop air service development in conjunction with our friends in Collier County. They provide marketing dollars, we provide marketing dollars, and we continue to partner with the Lee County Port Authority for air service development and have attended Roots America with them and assisted in airline pitches. And we'll continue to do that going forward. The second goal was to employ an always-on marketing approach. We reallocated our marketing spend and activities throughout the year, but again, I'm going to mention Irma and red tide. And when you look at this pie chart and you see that in 43% of our spend has been in the fall and winter, and that is just simply to mitigate the challenges we had in the summer and fall with Irma and then red tide. And nevertheless, we have initiated television pushes in our top domestic markets and summer campaigns. Goal number 3 is to promote Lee County's natural assets. Here we use the Islandology campaign to rally and inspire and attract visitors to the area. We use the Islandology theme in our monthly consumer electronic newsletters that go out to more than 275,000 subscribers. We also we have a really strong community advocacy program where we're trying to educate the community about protecting and enhancing the environment. Our TDC, there's a TDC funding spotlight in our monthly industry partner newsletter. And of course, our executive director, Tamara, has a column in the news press, and she shares information about how to protect the environment. VCB social media channels also post relevant content. And we have had an introduction of a beach conditions section of our website, where we share water quality information. The goal number 4, our final goal, is to help our community spread our tourism story. So once again, that is being done through our Tamara's voice and megaphone, through her columns, and also Florida Weekly and engaging with social media to spread the word. We've developed and executed a strategy for connecting to the community. And of course, during our red tide recovery, we introduced the One Lee advocacy campaign to boost the local economy. It was a series of print ads and radio ads that ran over a 3-week period, public service announcements. Partners provided us with discounts and deals to spark business. We had very positive results on this campaign, and it really was something that was a community effort. So, in conclusion, and looking back again, these goals were ambitious, to say the least. And we are entering the last year of this strategic plan. We're not going to stop. We're certainly continuing. It's going to take a massive effort, a Herculean effort, if you will, and we're determined to get as far as we can. We've had to change the mindset, and come back to this plan about, the future visitor and what that entails. We reassessed our marketing strategy and the pacing of that strategy, the timing of it. And we will continue to work harder to engage our community in a shared tourism imperative. We believe that's the way to go, getting everybody on board. This plan is a living document, and we refer to it often. And Lord knows we've had to pivot a few times and make continuing changes to respond to new and foreseen challenges and opportunities, and we're going to continue to do so. So that concludes my presentation and update. Again, this plan goes through, strategic plan goes through next year, and we'll be working hard to achieve these, well, excuse me. We'll be working hard towards these goals, but knowing that we will probably not attain them.
Great, thank you. Good job. Any questions for Pam?
Is there an effort going on to develop a new strategic plan to end of 2025 or whatever?
We'll begin undertaking that effort this next year. During 2020, we'll develop the next plan. I think Pamela's right. I don't think anybody foresaw what some of the challenges that we faced in back-to-back off seasons. I think, our area that we've been able to make so much hay in is the off season, and to have, just two blows in the off season, particularly challenging. But, we're committed to having a long-term plan. And not only is that our commitment to you, but that's part of our accreditation through Destinations International, our professional association. We are an accredited DMO, and that's important to us, and having a strategic plan is part of that. So, yes, sir, absolutely, we'll be developing a new plan. We've tended to go with 4 over 5 years, and you can see why. 4 years is a long time. When you start having that conversation, but maybe it's worth looking at 5 years. We started when we did our first plan. We thought we were going to do a 5-year plan, and the more we talked about it, the more we realized the speed at which our business is changing. It may not make as much sense, but keeping in mind that we do an annual plan every year, this is just our bigger, our overarching vision for our direction. But yes, thank you, Pamela. Never be fun to be the one that has to give the reality news.
Great, thank you. Going to old business, and we obviously talk about the Visit Florida letter of support. I think you should have a copy of that. It was signed by our chairman August 20th to the governor and to the House and Senate to restore funding for Visit Florida. I don't have an update on that. Never had heard any other communication. Tamara, have you had anything else?
One, I wanted you to have a copy and just publicly say that the letter has been sent, but I believe Colleen might have an update.
We were at the state board meeting for the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association, myself, Jay Johnson, John Lai, and we saw Dana Young from Visit Florida, and we were chatting, and she's like, and she thanked us for the letter, because she got it from the governor's office, so that we know that he saw it, and he obviously knew that we were involved. And the other thing that was pretty neat was we were the first county to do that, so she's taking our letter and sharing it with other counties and asking them to do something very similar to show support for Visit Florida. So thank you so much thank you to the TDC and the Board of County Commissioners, because it was a big win for us, and I'm hoping, that obviously this would lead to more success with Visit Florida.
We can just hope so. I was just learning this morning the governor has some priorities come out for budgeting for next year, coming out of, I think, $2 billion. And as those things get moved around, somebody loses funding. So there's only so much funding to go around. So I'm not sure where we are on that list. I can find out later, and we'll give you an update, or have Glenn give you an update. But every time the state goes in session, we never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad, because they're move money to education or water quality projects, whatever it may be. there will be funding moved from another program. And so how is it going to affect our programs, for example, Visit Florida? So hopefully that's not one of the, where the money comes from, so. Any other comments
Carol
on that?
Dover too sent out a notice with FRLA to write your senators and the governor and everybody else about the sunset rule and a few other things on Visit Florida, and I hope everybody took it and responded to that, because I think that's helpful. The more letters they get,
Yeah, especially with the
It is.
hospitality market, I mean, it's definitely, Florida, it is, so we need to continue that effort.
I think my colleague to our north in Sarasota, Virginia, Haley, is the chair of Visit Florida this year, and I think she said it best, Visit Florida amplifies Florida in people's minds. Then that allows us to grab them for our destination, There are a lot of competing destinations in the world, and we want Florida to be front of mind when people are thinking about vacations, and that is Visit Florida's job. So it is important to our efforts. I know sometimes, I've had people say to me, well, you guys do such a good job, you don't need them. And I'm like, oh, no. This is a partnership effort. Brand USA promotes the US, Visit Florida promotes Florida, and then we grab who we can from that pool. So it's important to us.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is new business. The city of Sanibel wishes to address the council as far as funding for the pilot program of removal of drift algae.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner, Chairman, members of the board. I also would like to say we have our councilwoman here. Councilwoman Holly Smith is here with me for this presentation. I recently started my 19th year as city manager of Sanibel, and when I reflect back and look at our partnerships, there's no partnership that's been more important or more profitable and successful, I think, than our partnership with the TDC over these last 2 decades. So hopefully we can continue that. I'm here today to talk to a request for funding for a pilot study we recently completed to try to use some new equipment and new technology to remove algae in the nearshore waters of Sanibel. We also had permits to do Fort Myers Beach. So the overview is we try to turbidity boom, hand crews, and light equipment, and we'll have some photos to show you the advantage environmentally of this approach, some of the lessons we learned, and some of the challenges. And I know you've all had this in your packet in advance and had an opportunity to look it over. We're always looking for a better mousetrap. We're always trying to find a way to get the algae off quick as we can if it warrants and merits removal. But we all know, if any of you have been on the beach when there's algae removal going on, it is not a customer-friendly, beachgoer-friendly environment when that equipment's on the beach. So there's always this pressure and pull. And then on Sanibel, you add the environmental impacts of that situation. And the final factor is just the mobilization time. So any of you who do operations, if something takes a 5 to 7 day mobilization and you mobilize those contractors and the conditions change, you've eaten up a lot of the dollars. It's a good news if the algae's gone by the time the equipment gets there, but there's also the mobilization cost. So the goals of this particular technology that we started looking at during the 17 season, and particularly what we saw in 18, would be the idea of, instead of trying to rake the algae once it's on shore, is attempting to remove the algae while it's in the water. And there's always people who stand up during the algae removal and say, why don't you catch it before it's on the shore? Not as easy as it sounds. We all know what we did experience in 17 and why people were saying, can't you get this before it's on shore? These are some of the photos that we all lived through. And on the right-hand side, you see some of the heavy equipment we utilized, and this is just several pieces. We had a lot of heavy equipment, us and Fort Myers Beach, on our beaches in 18 while we were attempting to remove material. Again, this is what it looked like on the media. If you're a beach goer and you're trying to get to the beach, not only do you have the algae, you have the heavy equipment. So we're looking for a less intrusive method. The other factor we have is we just have so many environmental factors. The algae tends to come in when the turtles are hatching, so that makes another challenge. They're so small. And then in this red circle, you see a snowy plover, and when you're trying to avoid snowy plovers with large equipment, that becomes its own challenge. If you're not aware, snowy plover is about the size of a cotton ball. It's a very protected species. This is some of the algae we saw this year. In that top left, you see the width of it and the extent, and we all know one of the impacts of the algae is the odoriferous nature of it. This is, on the left, is the equipment that's has been used down at Fort Myers Beach a couple times, and then on the right is the what we're testing for the in-water cleanup. The scope of the work, and we did take competitive bids for this work, would be, we had to get, of course, permits from the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers, so we had to establish target areas. We got permits both for Sanibel as well as Fort Myers Beach, but they had some very specific requirements. We had to identify specific areas. We had to have a method of checking the bycatch. So anything we brought out, we had to inventory if we were taking any of the live sea life out, and if any of that had to be saved. The estimate was that 2 laborers could keep up with that, but it actually took more labor than just 2. This is the competitive bids that your attorney looked over before saying we could come here for eligible for a reimbursement. So the authorization we received was for both the city of Sanibel and the town of Fort Myers Beach. We got permits from the DP, we got permits from the Corps of Engineer. We got these in the spring so that if we had a situation this year, we'd be prepared to test this equipment. It was considered a pilot project. The 2 locations on Sanibel that were approved, and they both had to be public locations to qualify for DEP and Corps of Engineers, and I believe also for your reimbursement, they have to be in public locations, were Lighthouse Beach and Gulfside City Beach. When we actually went to test the equipment, Gulfside City Beach had no algae, but Lighthouse did. Fort Myers Beach is approved for 3 locations to do similar tests: Flamingo Street, Gulf Drive, Larnock Avenue, and when we were doing the tests, they had no algae there. So at the time, we had some very heavy algae at Lighthouse, and we made the determination to start the test pilot there. This gives you an idea of where it is, but also the size of the area. They gave us approval to test. This is the type of more lightweight equipment. It's a golf cart or a small ATV can pull the conveyor belt, and the turbidity. And one of the pieces of equipment that's important is this top left, that's the hopper, but you can see how small that is when you're aware of the volumes we've had in the past. This is what the boom going out looks like. In the bottom right, you see we hired biologists from SCCF to be the to do the analysis of the bycatch. As you know, whenever there is algae, particularly with odor, you get a lot of citizen concern and visitor concern who very much would like to be cleaned up immediately. And those were examples of that. Gave us the specific preceding conditions to be able to do the pilot was after we had the Dorian experience, even though we're very fortunate not to have any immediate storm impacts, we did have a significant change in wind directions immediately following the storm that impacted us dramatically on algae deposits. As the storm was clearing the Florida peninsula, even though it was going north, we started to get very strong winds out of the west, which pushed this algae. Some people have opinions this might even been some of the algae that was died and deposited last year, but only got pushed ashore as these winds change. So this is what our September 6th looked like this year, of course, right at the end of the Labor Day weekend. The only good thing is one of our lowest occupied periods usually is that first couple weeks in September, and you see the prevailing wind charts, which we are watching very closely. We're always trying to determine what is the cause as well as what's the best solution and collection method. This is how busy the parking lot was pre the algae, and then as you go through, you see every day as the algae appears, you have less cars in the Lighthouse Beach parking lot. This one's important because it shows you from the drone the actual operation right there in the middle. And you get a sense that regardless of how effective it may be, this is the equivalent of using a teaspoon to remove algae. So it's the technology versus the productivity is what we're measuring as well as everything else. By the time we started the collection, there definitely was a sewage type odor that people were describing from the decaying algae. The winds had begun to shift, but our parking lots where the algae were virtually empty It's just not conducive to beach going. We continue to have these impacts. Now, by the 10th, the wind's down to 7 miles an hour, but the algae's still on the beach, and we're not getting any of the algae that's been deposited removed. So we mobilized the pilot project. This is the boom being rolled out. Of course, this is the first day the contractors tried this operation, so they have some time on logistics that if you did it day after day, you might be able to pick up some efficiencies. Here's the operation once deployed. The boom was 1,000 feet, 2 laborers from the contractor. We varied from 2 to 5 biologists on the bycatch. This is the boom deployed. You see the algae in front of it. This is the conveyor belt as it's working. So the boom collected, gets taken offshore on the conveyor belt. Again, to some degree effective, very low volume is the challenge.
So I noticed in the pictures, there's actually shells within the algae.
I'm going to show you the actual bycatch analysis.
I noticed, one thing I noticed Sample was concerned about the raking on the beaches. They didn't want to disturb the shells on the beach, but you were still picking up shells within the waterway.
And we're going to show you the analysis, exactly the issue is what's the bycatch, what's the impact. And we did every piece that was removed, live or not live. All the live bycatch was replaced into the water. The not live bycatch were not killed by the equipment, but that is the biggest concern and the biggest issue. So we were going to do 2 days. The first day we had a good amount of algae. The second day the winds had changed and there wasn't enough algae to pick up. Out of the entire day, we got 2 hopper loads of the algae. And again, here's where the winds start to change. So, Commissioner, to your point, the live organisms that were taken off the conveyor belt, earwig, spider crabs, blue crab, fish drum, bait fish, all found live, and as well as shells, all inventoried. We have an exact amount of how much was taken, as well as what came in off the conveyor belt dead. Here's the shell fit. 41 different species of shells were removed under the system, as well as other invertebrates, vegetation, marine grasses. So it's not without environmental impacts. 5 different species of algae were in just that little section, were collected and were able to be identified. So the cost of the pilot was $14,748. The estimate was $31,000, but the second day there was not really enough algae and we weren't going to have people out there without that cost. We did learn a lot. We learned a lot more about the weather variables, about the wildlife, the monitoring. We got some feedback from the biologists that was very interested, not only about the bycatch, but the end of the first day, the biologist also indicated to us, as well as the workers for the contractors, worries about and concerns about their own safety being in the algae in the water for that long period of exposure. And so we provided them some safety equipment, but if anybody would be proceeding with this in the future, we know that's something you'd have to be able to address if you ask workers to be standing in the water in those conditions. So as I said, we learned a lot about this particular technology. It's important to know these answers because when you have the public saying, why aren't you trying some of these other methods? And when you have contractors reaching you while the algae's on the beach. So we think it was very important. We think there's probably some potential for some further testing. We're very concerned about the scalability. If you had the entire beach and you were trying to use this method, the amount you would have to have of collection, et cetera. For a small spot location, it may be able to be utilized. We have one little spot right now on Sanibel, an inlet that's catching some algae for something like that, but it would have to still be pre-approved by the DEP and the Corps of Engineers for collection. And one of their conditions up to now has been public access. So this is what it looked like the day after. So, not because, there was some also misinformation in the media, because they came out the second or third day and said the boom cleaned all the algae off the beach, and no, Mother Nature and her change of wind direction had a lot more impact on the algae leaving the beach than that. But we did get some good experience and good analysis, and we'll have a full report of every piece of bycatch, et cetera. But it's, even with biologists there, it's not, you know, when people say, I have a system that will not take any shells, it's very difficult to find something that does that. The biggest advantage of this is less heavy equipment right on the beach and a little less noisy, but you're taking a very small volume at a time.
Judy, the big question I have for you is, as the city manager of Sanibel, if you had this question posed to you in the future, would you promote this to your council if you were having to pay for this removal of the seaweed from the algae from the?
For the cost effectiveness, if it was a beach-wide event, there's no way we could justify the cost effectiveness of it. But the idea that we should continue to see if there's a better technology out there that's more efficient for all of us, I think we should continue to always look to see if there's better technology. And what we do know, you have to have those permits and technology in hand, because if you try to do it once the algae's there, hopefully the algae's gone by the time you would go and get DEP permit. You know, we got these permits 6 months in advance.
The algae was there before in the pictures earlier. That is basically washed ashore, kind of like the SCCF was saying, just let it go through its natural reoccurrence. It would just kind of wash out.
Yeah.
Animals ate it, birds ate it, made nests out of it. That just went away, and that's the product of that,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Judy, this is only available for public use, right? I mean, for public.
Public, yes,
So it won't come down to my house?
that's true.
Okay, just checking.
So in the
Unless
reality,
you want to
If I
rent
had
the
a bunch
equipment
of
and
it,
pull
I'll
the
tell you, it
permit.
looks pretty
yeah.
thick. I know what they're going through.
and the total removal is 2.25 yards, which would be equivalent to basically like this table on a square of this table.
Yeah,
That's all they
2
removed.
hoppers full is what they were able
$15,000.
to get for the whole day.
Anything else?
We have a solution for the fish, but we don't, for the dead fish in case of a red tide, but we really don't have a solution when it boils down to for this red drift algae.
So you're asking
Well,
for reimbursement.
Well, you do. I mean, you're picking it up on the beach with the same equipment that you do for the fish. It's just,
Yeah, you get a lot of.
Well, there's a different, we have found that you can be more efficient. We have done both. We've raked algae in very rare circumstances. We've picked up dead fish in rare circumstances. You're more productive per hour per pound picking up, hopefully we never pick up dead fish again. But you can pick up more fish and cover more footage quicker than you can algae. Algae is very difficult to rake and to transport when it's wet. It's heavy and voluminous when it's wet. Dead fish, they're heavy, but not as heavy as very wet algae.
And it does smell, because I know the residents out there contacted my office.
Residents and more important, I would say more important visitors, because a resident has a higher patience for, I see it come and go, it's secular, and I have other days I can go to the beach. If someone pays to come for 3 days or a week, and that's the week they're going to be here, their expectation is not to have those conditions in the 1 week they're there.
So your ask is to be reimbursed for the cost of the 2-day project?
Yes, sir.
And what's the total?
14,748.
Question I would have is this the way that it would go? Would we do the testing first and then ask for the reimbursement, or would we ask for the funds first for the project to move?
Well,
Under normal circumstances, it would be the previous, but because this is a very special situation, obviously, test project.
But something they knew about they were going to do in advance, because we had to permit 6 months prior to doing any of this test, right?
And that's,
Why wouldn't that get requested before the project gets done, rather than after the project?
and that's when you have an opportunity now, you could say, in the future, if this happened again, would you support reimbursement for this item in the future or not, you know?
I'll make a motion, support this item, move it forward. Great exercise.
We have a motion?
Second motion.
We have a second? Any other discussion?
Where's does it come out of beach and shoreline or general?
I will be honest, we weren't sure when Judy first talked to us about this. The number was a lot larger, about 10 times that amount, close to it. And I was concerned about whether we had enough funds in our emergency beach cleanup. As you'll remember, we pulled some from reserves already this year. But I think that based on this number, it would be acceptable to pull this out of the remainder of the emergency beach cleanup funds. So we not even have to go to reserve, just pay it out of that.
do you know what what's in that account right now?
Nancy?
So
Yeah, I guess it would be 60-something, something like that, around 60,000. It'll come out of last fiscal year, so we can start fresh. Okay.
Because the only reason I say this is that the town called me yesterday, we're picking up dead fish in Fort Myers Beach right now, so, I mean,
So as you know, we start the year with $100,000 in the emergency beach cleanup fund. Last year we had, typically that's plenty of money in the emergency beach cleanup fund, but last year the town had 165,
Again,
am I
there they can
remembering
use
the
the
number?
rakes and the machines we already have in place, and Jesse's here too, so.
it's on the other side, it's on the, you know, right now it's on the mangrove side, so it's hand doing right now.
Coming
So.
from Collier and Mark.
It's Collier, yeah, coming up Collier and coming through the back bay.
I have a question too. The machines that we purchased to pick up the red tide for the fish, were those machines only used for the public areas? Is that correct?
Below the mean high water line, correct, Jesse?
During the event last summer, we used it on all our shorelines.
Okay. The other question I have, the machines that we have to pick up the dead fish, can they pick up the red drift algae?
Yes, but I think Sanibel did not want the machines on the beaches.
That's what I'm, okay.
So that's,
So
that was
this
my
was a
concern.
test to see what alternatives are there.
Correct.
And we have observed, we have sent our crews down when the county's been utilizing them and as well as the beach. So we've been sharing information, you know, with both the county parks as well as with Fort Myers Beach. So we consider this an experiment, and we've been on the observation on the river land, on the equipment that the county purchased as well.
And I guess the next question, Judy, I have with you is, in the future, and what it brought up, you know, what I think might be, in the future, if we're going to do another experiment, maybe we need to ask ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, I would support the project without, I support all the research to try to clean it up. The beaches are important, just knowing about it ahead of time so we have
Yeah,
an
I
opportunity.
think, but this was an unusual circumstance.
well, that and also, like you said, the county was also offering to use our equipment on the beaches.
Yeah.
But the city did not want those because of the environmental impact to the beaches and the noise. So we did all other alternatives. They chose this pilot program.
Let me ask the question then, Judy, to you. If the red drift algae now is probably subsided, would you say?
Substantially.
And let's hope it's gone away, but let's say we're in this same scenario next year, what would be your thoughts? Would you bring in the equipment?
It would depend on volume and forecast, and it's particularly now that we have more information about wind. For us, if it's turtle season and snowy plover season, it really gives us some significant challenges. We try to hand work around that.
Thank you.
Bill, did you want to say?
Well, the only thing, I mean, I'm all for looking at other alternatives, but if the city of Sanibel doesn't want to use the equipment that we purchased for it and look at all our alternatives, is it a cost that the city should bearing? But, you know, I'll support moving forward, but I just would like, as Brian said, future, just have a conversation beforehand.
And just for clarity, we did have a conversation with staff and with the county attorneys in advance. And they wanted to make certain that the board heard about it.
Because it's unusual, you know. It's not something we've ever done before. That's why I wanted you to have the opportunity to consider it.
And I will support the council's decision today based upon the discussion we had today. But in the future, even if I'm not in this seat, if I'm across the street, I definitely would bring up as a commissioner item that, you know, would not support it. If there's all other alternatives out there possible to use without the cost of $6,500 a yard, that's a lot of money to use. And I don't want people to think, oh, it's just free money or somebody else's money. We're going to spend bed tax money on this. And I don't want people to think that. I don't want that perception from the general public also that we're spending $6,500 a yard, basically a plastic bag full to remove this. Obviously, it's important. We want to remove it, but if there's more cost-effective, more effective ways of doing it. So I think that's what you were trying to say, Daniel. So. Morning.
Hi, good morning. Councilwoman Holly Smith. I just wanted to make one comment, and I do appreciate the concern with the expenses when I was on TDC, the expenses that we went to with the equipment that we were buying. When we did that, I can tell you that the city of Sanibel was very cautious because we knew that it was very unlikely that we would be able to have a benefit of using that only because of the sensitivity of our environment. So I do appreciate that this is an extenuating circumstance. We wish that we had the globe that we can look at to know what is coming to our beaches, and we didn't. We were reacting to something, and we hope that we have learned from it, but we would really appreciate your consideration for this specialized funding at this time.
There's a motion to approve, and there's a second already. I think you have approved. I think, well, I was just concerned. We don't want that. I think, obviously, the beaches in San Diego are important, but so are the beaches in Captiva and Fort Myers. Are all the same beaches to a certain point. So I think when you have equipment available, luckily it worked out with the wind change and the natural occurrence, the seaweed. A lot of the algae left, so that's a good thing. So hopefully we have to deal with it again, knock on wood. But if it does happen again, hopefully it'll be a more effective way to get it done.
So to clarify, you don't think you would ever use the equipment we bought last year on the beaches on Sanibel?
I would
Just
never
this?
say never. It would depend on the conditions, where we have to unload it, the volume, all of those factors. We have went down and watched the equipment. I mean, one of the problems we have is with the long stretch is we still need the equipment as that hopper fills on that equipment to have trucks, large trucks, et cetera, unload it, take whatever's being collected, be it dead fish, algae, and get it hauled out of that area.
Okay.
I've got a question. In your presentation, you mentioned you were really using a teaspoon to try to correct this problem.
With this particular technology approved to.
So my question is, who's involved now in trying to determine what are more effective ways to deal with this problem? Because it doesn't look like it's really going to go away. Nature cured it basically here. So I don't know if you're working with Florida Gulf Coast, their water school, to help in this regard?
The City of Sanibel is very involved with the water quality issues in the water school, and very familiar with the funding and the programs there. And the scientists from there have been out and given ideas and suggestions. It's a number of scientists who've suggested this boom technology, actually. However, we have systems, and we continue to improve them, that we have used over the years to collect. So during the 2018 season, we were very effective. It's just that the equipment used becomes very non-friendly to the visitor on the beach. So we have methods that can pick it up, and we can do it environmentally friendly. It's not very friendly to the visitor on the beach.
Okay, great. So we have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion from the council? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, TDC member.
Okay, next we have for council information. Tamara, do you have anything else for the council?
I do. There are two items in your packet under council's information. One is a updated forecast from STAR, and the second one is the county's legislative program for this year. And you will see in that legislative program that pursuing the population change that will allow us to continue to fund fishing piers out of tourist development tax is a priority for the board. And another project, not specifically related to tourist development tax, but another project that I think has some tourism implications is pursuing some enhancements to the Causeway Islands. And that packet is in your for council's information. So I thought you'd be interested in looking at those two items in particular.
Great. Thank you. Anything else? That's
No,
it?
sir.
Right. Okay, council information. Councilman McLean.
I'll pass.
Good. Everything good in Estero?
Everything's pretty good.
Fran?
I have two things. Just so you all remember, it's the offshore, the Roar Offshore this weekend, and if you want to see the big boys with their toys. And I think there's a parade. Well, anyhow, if any of you want to look at it, I thought Nita was going to bring some today, but it's here if you want to look at it. And secondly, there's a lot of good things happening at the airport, so while I'm passing out the hot list, I would ask Carol to come up and share some of it, if that's okay with everyone.
Carol, you here?
Is Carol here?
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Tell us some good news from the airport.
Real good.
I'll be there Monday, so hopefully it's a quiet day on Monday.
Well, good morning, everyone. Carol Obermeyer, Director of Air Service at RSW. We're getting ready to kick off our season. It's just around the corner, so starting this month, you'll see a steady increase in flight activity with significant increase in November 14th and 15th and peaking March 21st, 2020. As of today, we have 142 daily flights. November 15th, coming up soon, we'll have 264. March 21st, 2020, we'll have 374. So we're really seeing the increase at RSW. Domestically, as Judy brought up, we're starting new United Dulles service twice a day. That will be October 22nd or 27th. That's very significant in that it's going to offer over connecting points for over 60 international and domestic cities on United and their Star Alliance partners. November 14th and 15th, we see a huge increase. Spirit Airlines will increase from 5 nonstop markets to 15. Frontier Airlines will increase from 5 nonstop markets to 18. November 3rd to the 23rd, Southwest Airlines will be ramping up their seasonal service to Buffalo, Cleveland, Dallas Love Field, Grand Rapids, Hartford, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Nashville. Internationally, as Stephanie had touched on, Toronto, Air Canada, and WestJet are at 8 weekly flights now in October, and they will increase in November to 3 daily, and throughout the season, they'll be increasing even more to Toronto. Montreal, Air Canada resumes weekly service October 30th, and Ottawa, WestJet resumes weekly service on November 2nd. Eurowings, we had talked a little bit about that. I have some advanced booking numbers for them in October and November. They're looking very strong, both in and out. The Port Authority is doing a 15-second commercial for Eurowings. You'll see starting October 14th. It will be on NBC Morning News, Nightly News with Lester Holt, Jeopardy, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, NFL Sunday Night Football pregame show, Wink News morning and evening news programs, and Late Night with Stephen Colbert. So there's some really super exciting stuff going on out at RSW, and I just really want to say to the TDC and everybody here, we have a great partnership with our VCBs. I mean, we just couldn't have done this. I heard stuff about, the red tide, and, Pamela had there were some downtimes, but I mean, you just really, hats off to you guys. I mean, it really shows in our air service. So we have a strong partnership with the VCB, and we just want to continue with that. So give yourselves all a hand on that one. So thank you.
Carol, I just wanted to say I saw the projected PAX numbers for Eurowings for the next couple of months, and they really look strong. Inbound is really strong.
Seriously, I saw them, Swissport sent them to me, and I was very, because, sometimes we were concerned, the inbound, then it was the outbound, but both the inbound and outbound. So I'm hoping, knock on wood, we turn that corner with them. So, but it's been a challenge, but, we worked through it.
And continue to be committed. We, as Carol said, we have a marketing plan going forward. And as an organization, both us here in Lee County and our colleagues in Collier County are committed to that, and looking forward to seeing if we can't have all those flights full for a long, long time.
It is. It's a partnership. So just thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Carol. Colleen, do you have anything for us?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Bill?
Just a great job to VCB on the island hopper. It was just fantastic, just unbelievable. Having the talent we had too was a lot of fun. I know my resorts well benefited from having island hopper in the area, so great. Just some kudos to the Pink Shell. Condé Nast just came out with top resorts in Florida, and Pink Shell was rated number 4 in the state. So, yeah.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good ratings this month. That retirement, what else can you ask for?
Yeah.
Brian?
So tacos. Who doesn't love tacos? Well, who doesn't love a taco competition put on by high school students? So our second annual Lee County High School Taco Cook-Off is taking place Tuesday of next week at the Burroughs Home and Gardens. And it's sponsored by the Uncommon Friends Foundation from the Burroughs Home, as well as FGCU's School of Hospitality Management. And the funds raised will go towards scholarships and some equipment for the schools for their culinary programs. So the high school students are coming out. I think we have 4 or 5 different high schools that are coming out, and all the students are preparing tacos, and it'll be, and we welcome everybody to get tickets, come, attend, and support the local high schools and culinary programs.
Let's say Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. So I'll pass these around so that you guys all have a copy, and anybody in the room that wants more, there's plenty to go around. And you can get tickets on the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association's Lee County chapter website. You can buy your tickets in advance there.
Yeah, I got the invite already and saw Lois back there. I'm actually going to be in DC next week, so I missed out on it. I was very disappointed. It's like a reason to eat a taco.
Already signed up.
Yeah.
There you go. Great.
Sounded good, but,
Thank you.
Tony?
Just to talk about, Bill said, to thank the staff of VCB for Island Hopper. You know, last year we came off a red tide and kind of saved our bacon. This year we got the whole pig, I think. It was, the weather was just absolutely fabulous. I mean, my staff and everybody had to bust their butts in order to keep up with everything. And I did have the, you know, I talk to people as much as I can, and there was one guest I happened to talk to staying 2 or 3 nights with me, and he said last year he had come to the Island Hopper, but he just sort of stayed there. He said, so this year, he was from Chicago, this year he came and he booked like 3 nights, just because he wanted to be there for Island Hopper. So that's the kind of thing I think that develops, and I think I'm not a big festival guy. I don't go to a lot of things like this, but I do enjoy the intimacy that this particular Island Hopper has. Unfortunately, I haven't made it to the beach. One of these days I will, Bill, to get down to see how it does down at the beach. But on Captiva, it certainly has a great ring to it, and people, I think, really just hone in on it, and I think that it'll just keep growing, but it'll still stay intimate to what we like. It's so real special. So, again, congratulations to you guys for the idea that started years ago, and the follow-through and the effort that you all put into it every year. It's really appreciated.
I have to say, Tamara staff put a lot into it, and I think everybody involved in that staff for putting it together. They did a great job every year, and every year it gets bigger, and we all seen it grow the last couple of years, and congratulations to that. I look forward to seeing it continue to grow. And,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. That's it. We'll go ahead and adjourn. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for City of Sanibel for hanging out with us the whole time, and have a great month. We'll see you next month.